Today, we're going to dive into how one of the most famous and, let's be honest, difficult poems of the 20th century might just be the perfect piece of art for our post-pandemic world. I mean, really think about it. How do you find the right words for that collective feeling we all had over the last few years? You know, the anxiety, the isolation, that sense that all the old rules just stopped working? It's a huge question.
And believe it or not, the answer might actually be hiding in a poem that was written a full century ago.
So that brings us to the big idea for this explainer. Can T.S. Eliot's famously complex poem, The Wasteland, really be read as a poem about a pandemic? Well, when you put it like this, side by side, the parallels are pretty shocking. The poem was a direct reaction to a world just reeling from trauma, a world defined by spiritual burnout and this feeling of total collapse. Sound familiar? I mean, a time of fear, loneliness, mass death, and the complete disruption of normal life. It's uncanny. To really get this, we've got to go back in time, to the exact moment this poem was being created. So let's set the stage for the year 1922.
Now, what's really wild about this timeline is just how slammed together these events are. The world had just survived the absolute devastation of World War I, and then, boom, immediately gets hit with the Spanish flu pandemic, one of the deadliest in all of human history. The Wasteland was written right in the shadow of this incredible one-two punch of catastrophe.
So you can just imagine the air in the early 1920s was thick with all of this. Society was completely overwhelmed by mass death on a scale nobody had ever seen before. People were dealing with this deep, deep physical and psychological trauma. And naturally, this led to a widespread feeling that culture itself, the spiritual bedrock of society, was just crumbling. The poem wasn't just about this feeling, it was born right out of it. And this is where it gets really interesting, where the poem feels almost prophetic. Let's look at some of the direct, almost eerie parallels between Eliot's world and our own. One of the most haunting images from the entire poem is Eliot's description of London. He calls it the unreal city. It's a place that's packed with people, but at the same time, it's weirdly empty of life and connection. And this just nails the connection, doesn't it? Eliot's city was full of these numb, lifeless crowds where people were just going through the motions, totally detached from each other. He has this incredible image of a crowd flowing over London Bridge, where every single person's eyes are fixed on their own feet. It's this powerful picture of being alone in a crowd, a feeling that hits so close to home when we think about our own empty lockdown streets, masked faces, and a life lived mostly through screens. Now, this is maybe the most famous line in all of modern poetry, and it's designed to shock you. April, the month we always associate with spring and rebirth, he calls it cruel. So why would renewal be cruel? Well, think about it. After a massive trauma, getting back to normal isn't some simple, happy switch you can flip. It can actually feel painful. It's a reminder of everything that was lost. It perfectly captures that collective burnout when you're just too tired to even feel hopeful. A feeling a lot of us probably recognized when the world tried to get back on its feet. Okay, so the themes are a perfect match. But what about the way the poem is written? It's famously difficult, right? It's confusing. But here's a thought. What if that confusion isn't a flaw? What if it's the entire point? So, the technique Eliot is using here is called fragmentation. Instead of giving us one clear, linear story, he gives us this collage. It's made of broken voices, bits of different languages, and sudden jumps in time and place. And he does this on purpose, to make the reader feel the psychological chaos of a society that's lost its way. A line from the poem itself says it best. This is the exact feeling the poem is built to create. This sense of being in a world where all the old connections have been snapped, and it's almost impossible to make sense of anything. So you see, the very structure of the poem becomes a kind of map of trauma. All these shifting voices and broken stories, they're not just fancy literary tricks. They're meant to show us what it feels like when our personal stories and our collective stories are shattered by a crisis. The poem's form is its message. It's a world in pieces. But The Wasteland isn't just an exercise in despair. Tucked away in its final section, Eliot points, maybe a little vaguely, but he points, toward a way forward. Which, of course, leads us to the most important question. After showing us this complete breakdown of civilization, does the poem offer any way out? Is it all just doom and gloom? The answer arrives in that final section, and it suggests that real recovery isn't just about rebuilding buildings or getting the economy going again. It's about something much deeper, a kind of moral and spiritual reconstruction.
Eliot actually pulls from ancient Indian philosophy here, from the Upanishads, to offer 3 core principles for healing this wasteland. And they're really ethical commands: to give of yourself, to sympathize and feel with others, and to practice self-control. The big idea here is that renewal has to start with us, with individual moral choices.
All right, let's zoom out for the big finish. Why should any of us care about a 100-year-old poem today? What's the real takeaway here? It's because this shows us that great art isn't some dusty thing locked in the past. It's alive. A crisis like the one we just went through can suddenly light up a classic text in a whole new way, making it feel like it was written just for us, right now. Ultimately, the wasteland gives us a powerful language, a vocabulary to talk about our own experiences of collective trauma. No, it doesn't give us any easy answers, but what it does do is show us that we aren't the first people to feel this way. It maps out this recurring human cycle of catastrophe and the difficult, uncertain search for meaning that always follows. And that leaves us with one final, pretty important question to think about. 100 years from now, when people look back at the art that was made during our crisis, what story is it going to tell them about us? What will be our wasteland?